All right, in this video we're going to discuss the cells, specifically as part of your immune system that are involved in both innate and acquired immunity, okay? For the most part, what comes from the myeloid lineage is going to be innate. Lymphoid lineage is going to be part of the acquired. But again, that's really kind of a gross overstatement on my part. You're going to have interplay between both lines of the cells that come out of the immune system. All right? So in terms of the second line of defense, essentially what we're talking about here is what's associated with your blood. Okay? So in terms of your blood, you've got the red blood cells, and you've got white blood cells. The white blood cells are called leukocytes. It's kind of a catch-all for all of the white blood cells. We're going to go over the specific names of the different white blood cells here in a minute. Okay? Red blood cells are referred to typically as erythrocytes. Red blood cells don't play so much of a role in the immune system, but we're going to talk about where they come from, okay? So we've got red blood cells, we've got white blood cells, and then the other part that we're going to have are going to be the platelets, okay? So really the ones that are going to be part of the immune system, the white blood cells, the leukocytes, which are what I'm going to kind of go over here. And then the platelets are going to be involved in clotting factors that are going to come into play when we talk about inflammation a little bit, okay? Primarily, though, where we're focusing is going to be the white blood cells, all right? What we start out with the white blood cells, in your bone marrow, there is a hematopoietic stem cell. So something that's a stem cell can give rise to multiple different cell types, okay? So what we've got here with our hematopoietic stem cell, it can give rise either to the cell that's going to generate the cells within our myeloid lineage, or it can give rise to the cell that's going to give rise to the cells within our lymphoid lineage, okay? In terms of that myeloid lineage, there are a couple of different things that can come off of that. One of those that we'll put way over here is going to be the Erythro Blast, okay? I probably should have used the pink for this, but that's okay. The Erythro Blast is what's going to give rise now to your red blood cells, okay? So this line of what comes off that myeloid lineage, we're not so interested in because the red blood cells aren't going to play a big part in our immunity, okay? You can also get a megakaryoblast. That megakaryoblast is going to give rise to our platelets, okay, within our immune system. This next one that we want to go over, we're going to get a myeloblast that comes out of that, okay? The myeloblast now is going to give rise to a number of different cell types. And in terms of the myeloblast here, okay, these now are going to be cells that are going to become important as part of the second line of defense, because in terms of that, these white blood cells are always circulating, they're always surveying, looking for foreign particles and things to get rid of. Okay? So the myeloblast can give rise to one cell type that we will talk about later. I'm not going to focus on it a lot right now. I'm actually not going to focus on a lot of these right now. I just want you to know where everything comes from, known as a mast cell. Okay? That mast cell is going to be one of the cells that will be important in communicating with the cells that come out of our lymphoid lineage. when we get to that with more specifically in chapter 17. All right. The myeloblast is also going to give rise to neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Okay? These three are going to be our granulocytes as far as our immune cells. Really what it means for those to be granulocytes, when you look at the cytoplasm with neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils underneath the microscope, the cytoplasm looks really kind of grainy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils more specifically. But these are going to be our granulocytes, okay? And in terms of that, these are going to come off of that myeloblast. We've got one more cell type that's going to come off of our myeloblast here, and that is going to be our monocyte, okay? The monocyte is going to be a precursor cell to some more specific cells that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Our macrophage and our dendritic cell. Okay? The macrophage and dendritic cell, again, these are going to be cells that interact with our lymphoid lineage and will give rise to some interactions between our acquired immunity and our innate immunity. They do function without the lymphoid lineage as part of your innate immune system, because those macrophages, those neutrophils, those are really your main two cells that are going to be involved in phagocytosis. Now, in terms of that, some of these other cells have the ability to phagocytose as well, but the ones who do the bulk of the work are going to be the macrophages and the neutrophils. But we'll talk a little bit more specifically about that in a later video, okay? So from our myeloblast lineage, we get our mast cells, our neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, which give rise to macrophages and dendritic cells, okay? This is really the more complicated end of that, which is why I went this way with it. Lymphoid lineage is going to be not quite as branched, okay? So in terms of that lymphoid lineage, all right, you're going to have essentially the lymphocytes that come out of the lymphoid lineage, okay? There are two types of lymphocytes, which is why I drew the two arrows up there, all right? You are going to have B cells and you are going to have T cells, okay? And in terms of our B cells and our T cells, these are going to be two of the main players in our acquired immunity. Okay? So in terms of that, we've got the B cells, the T cells. We've got one other cell type that comes off of that lymphoid lineage that I want to make sure that you're aware of. Let's get rid of this arrow so I can write it in. And that's going to be the natural killer cell. All right. Again, natural killer cell is going to be important in targeting specific pathogens within the body. All right. So in terms of that, that's kind of a very rough overview of where all of these cells are coming from. They all start from the blood. They originate in your bone marrow from a hematopoietic stem cell. That hematopoietic stem cell can give rise to two main lineages, myeloid and lymphoid. Myeloid lineage gives rise to our red blood cells, our platelets, as well as a number of our white blood cells, our leukocytes, okay? So I defined our neutrophil, our eosinophil, and our basophil as granulocytes. Our monocytes, our B cells, our T cells, are going to be our agranulocytes, okay? So in terms of that, it's a little bit misleading because the agranulocytes do also have some of those granules associated with them. They're just much finer and they don't stain as predominantly or as intensely when you look at them underneath the microscope, okay? So in terms of that, if you have any questions, please let me know.